Indigenous Religiosity in Canada. This is part of our series of snippets of various religions covered in our lectures on religions in Canada. In the Indigenous peoples of Canada, known as First Nations, the Métis, Inuit, have a diverse array of spiritual beliefs, practices, and traditions that vary widely among different communities and geographic areas. Before European colonization, these spiritual systems were deeply integrated into the daily lives of Indigenous peoples, encompassing a broad understanding of the world that included close relationships with the land, nature, and the spiritual world, hence forms of animism, spiritualism, etc. So, animism and shamanism as the overarching early religiosities. Many indigenous spiritual practices are characterized by animism, the belief that all elements of the natural world, including animals, plants, rocks, and geographic features like rivers, mountains, possess a spiritual essence. Shamanism, involving communication with the spiritual world through rituals, visions, and dreams, is also common with shamans or spiritual leaders, serving as intermediaries between the physical and the spiritual world. Then there's also parts of Canada where totemism is quite common, like on the west coast of Canada. Totemism, a belief in kinship with a group or individual through a totem, which is often an animal or other natural figure. This is prevalent in some Indigenous cultures in Canada. Totems serve as emblems or tribes or clans, representing the group's lineage, identity, and spiritual guardian. Then there are also spiritual entities. Many Indigenous religions believe in a creator or great spirit, a supreme deity responsible for the creation of the world and everything within it. Other spiritual entities, such as tricksters, spirits of ancestors, and nature spirits, play significant roles in the cosmologies and mythologies of various Indigenous peoples. And then there are also certain ceremonies and rituals that they follow, not the same across Canada, very different in different geographies. So Indigenous spiritual practices include a wide range of ceremonies and rituals designed to honor the spiritual world, often to mark significant life events, and also to ensure harmony between humans and nature. These might include powwows, vision quests, sweat lodges, ones I've been to, and seasonal festivals, each with its own specific purposes and traditions. Not to forget, the religions are based on the impact of European colonization. So the arrival of the European settlers brought Christianity to Indigenous lands, leading to significant changes in the religious landscape. Many Indigenous people were converted to Christianity, often through the efforts of missionaries and the famous residential school system, which aimed to assimilate Indigenous children into Euro-Canadian culture. Despite these influences, many Indigenous communities have retained or are reviving their traditional spiritual practices, often blending them with elements of Christianity. Practices today, there is a resurgence in the interest and practice of traditional spiritual beliefs among Indigenous peoples in Canada. This spiritual reawakening is part of a broader movement of cultural revival, and certainly a move in many spheres towards self-determination, with Indigenous peoples reclaiming and revitalizing their languages, like Cree, Dene, etc., traditions, and spiritual practices. So In sum, there is no single overarching religion for the Indigenous peoples of Canada. Instead, there's a rich mosaic of spiritual beliefs and practices that vary widely among different communities. These spiritual traditions are deeply rooted in a holistic understanding of the world, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all living things and the importance of living in harmony with nature. At this stage, let me just say, Tanse and Kinina Squampton.